Hi, this is Jennifer McLaughlin presenting for the proctored final for Dr. Bill Clementi in Class 49X Creative Writing on October 16th, 2011. In this proctored final, I am supposed to share two pieces in which I've worked over in the past 8 weeks. I've decided to do a free verse poem and also to do a short story. The first one I would like to share with you is my free verse. A free verse poem is supposed to promote an idea of what the poet is wanting to express to its audience. I decided that I wanted to compare two different worlds. I've lived in the United States and also outside in South America. And I actually just got back from this experience in May. And really, it has been quite hard for me to acclimate to everything. One of the biggest ways has been in my new job. I work as a Chinese waitress, and comparing the differences between the mentalities here and also in Colombia where I was living at. And so as I was analyzing this one night, it just became obvious to me in how oblivious as Americans we become to the outside world. Sometimes we just become so consumed and complain about the littlest things when in another world you wouldn't even dare complain about something like that. And I guess with this poem, that's what I really wanted to share or to express was through that. So I hope you can receive that. And so this is my poem, The Glutton. The grease-stained man, with frisked-fetch brow, shows little compassion for those around. Smack! Lick! Freshly smacked crumbs stick on his lips. Saliva drips down with no embarrassment. The burly, dirt-coated arms wipes the fresh spit from his food consumer. From his pores drip oil made from the grease-soaked food. Chew! Gulp! Swallow. He laughs, with no consideration of those around. The children miles away who cry at night for the hunger that reaches their bellies like a hand clenching their innards, he thinks of not. Parents who cry and have no way to find the fresh elements they desire, this does not bother him. No money, no food, just trust in God is their philosophy. His is another governmental check for a fake disability. Big, fat man takes the dollar bill out where he blatantly throws it on the counter, and then he complains about his meal as an elderly woman complains of her back pain. Nothing can ever satisfy. But the hand of the dark child who reaches for just a crumb, he smashes his foot upon her hand as her screams and tears cannot even express her pain that is deep within. He does not flinch. Fat, coated, greased man walks out, again to look for another fattening meal, unappreciative and unmoved. The next piece I'm going to share is my short story. The idea of the short story is to compress a larger story and make it for a condensed amount of time or a condensed amount of words. And in that short amount of time, you want your audience to be involved in it. So that means you have to have descriptive verbs, descriptive adjectives. You really have to bring the piece alive and using all the different senses, making people feel as though they can touch, as though they can see, as though they can feel the sensation of what the person or the protagonist is feeling. And so in my piece, I decided to go with a setting at the airport. With this, I think the airport just has a whole different sense of an ambiance. You really can't find that anywhere else. So I decided to go with this piece, looking for that. It's about a girl coming and seeing a loved one. So I hope you enjoy. The plane came in and Sharon was exhausted. It had been a long trip that had lasted all day. And now to finally be in the land of the Cornhuskers was so refreshing. She had been waiting to see Josh since she'd left. She couldn't contain herself, nor the butterflies that were in her stomach. It had been too long since she had placed her smooth hand upon his rough cheek. She longed to give him a kiss and tell him how much she loved him. It seemed like an eternity as she waited for passengers to unload their bundles of luggage from overhead, each passenger taking their time on the small compact jet. Each minute felt like an hour. She felt as though a child at Christmas time as her legs began to quiver from the anticipation. Finally, one by one, the passengers began to exit the plane. As she stepped off the plane, emotions began to flood over her as she remembered the night she had left. They were so fresh and raw, as though it was the same moment from 7 months before, where she left in tears, heartbroken to leave him alone. It was too real and surreal to think that now her longing would finally be fulfilled. It had been a hard, long 9 months since Josh had been told that he was going to be deployed to Iraq. They had discussed Sharon returning home to Manhattan, where she would be with her parents and friends, until things were certain. "Honey, I don't want to," she cried. "I want to be with you." "I know, sweetheart, but you know this won't be easy for you, and what support will you have? We've just moved here to Omaha, and there's nobody you know. Why don't you go home to your mom and stay there in the meanwhile? I'll be training." He rubbed his calloused hand across her satin smooth cheek as he hated to see her go. Her heart sunk just thinking about the moment. And this is where they ended 5 weeks later, where they were left to say their goodbyes. The memories of her crumbling in her husband's arms left her numb, not wanting to loosen her grip, nor come to the thought of not seeing him. And now to come to the overwhelming reality that she was here, and just out the next exit door she would once again be in his arms. Her heart began to race as each footstep brought her closer to the exit ramp. She took a deep breath and clutched her bag tighter as her hands began to become clammy. Hesitantly, she rounded the corner. Her heart felt as though it was about to be faint. There she found him, her big teddy bear staring right back at her with those blue, glossined eyes that had captured her once before. She ran as though her life depended on it, and he caught her and flung her in his arms as he swung her around as though she were a little girl. This moment could not have been any more beautiful. Just to be together. He wrapped his arms around her and held her. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you." This concludes my presentation for the proctored final on October 16th, 2011.